I grew up in the Drakensberg Mountains of South Africa. When I went fishing and hunting at a very young age, camping in the wild, I wouldn't be home for a few days at a time, You take a string with a lot of fishing line and a rifle at 9, 10 years old and you're gone for a few nights. It's lovely. And it's hard to people, you explain that to people here and they go, our kids wouldn't do that here. But that was okay. That was part of where we come from. So the farm is still there. My grandparents and my dad is still there. I think my grandfather's 86 and he still farms every day. So the farm is it's a beautiful part of the world. It's stunning. We've got about 10 kilometers of river that runs through the farm. There's cave drawings. There's the history of the family on the farm there goes back just over 200 years. Old sandstone blocks that was hand chiseled out of the mountains is some of the buildings that's built on the farm. Mountains, forests, loads of wildlife, deers, antelopes, all sorts up there. There's no words that can describe it as how beautiful that part of the world is. And I farmed in South Africa myself after school, worked on a game ranch. My dad has farmed with potatoes and garlic and cauliflowers over the years, but it's been majority cattle and sheep for as long as I can remember. Yeah. And working on the farm, it was a time when all my friends would be partying and stuff. If I was home on a weekend, on the holidays, I'll be on the tractor, I'll be working. I'll be helping on the farm as best I can. In the middle of nowhere. I think some of the highest points there is 3,700 meters above sea level. People think South Africa just gets hot. It gets cold out there. In June, July, the coldest I've experienced there was about minus 22. We get snow, so it's high up, it's very rural, isolated. So you can't just pick up the phone or get somebody in to come and help you. So you tend to do things yourself out there. The community there is very close-knit. It's very much everybody's part of a larger family there. Because you're so isolated, people tend to step in for each other quite regularly. There's daily check-ins, making sure everybody's okay, and if somebody doesn't respond at a certain time, people go and check up on them. So it's a very close-knit community. The local schools wasn't great. When it goes to high school, the education wasn't the greatest, so you wanted to go to a city. So the closest city was Bloemfontein. It's 6 hours away. And it's obviously you can't travel that on a regular basis. So the boarding school was more of a necessity to be at a better school. Being that my dad and his sisters were also at the same school as in high school, there was a bit of a tradition there as well. As we are so far apart from everywhere, it's having a good education, you kind of have to sacrifice being at home. I went to boarding school, went home every weekend until the age of 12, 13, I went to high school. Went to boarding school there, that was even further away. So I tend to go home mostly on holidays, and then some holidays was rugby tours or that. And sometimes it could be 6 months before you go home. But I would love it. If I had an option, I would go back to boarding school tomorrow. I think I was 8 or 9 years old, and I wanted my first TV games. It was a 101 gaming, but a black and white TV that I wanted, and my parents said, no, I need to work for it this is not something they're just going to buy for me. So I started a vegetable patch, and I started growing veg. Being in boarding school, I used to come on weekends and then work on that. On Mondays, when I get dropped off, I'll take little Foamolite containers with fresh veg in and sold that to the local people, and that kind of grew. I had a BMX bicycle with a cooler box at the back, and I had regular people buying from me and so on, and that kind of allowed me to kind of earn the money that I then had to pay. It was 200 Rand back then, which I think is like 10 quid, which was a lot of money for me back then. So and that's kind of where it started. I studied hotel and catering management, actually, after school. So I was just like, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And it came up, and I was like, I can do that. And it gave me an opportunity because of a step into working in hospitality abroad. So I did that, and when I came over here, even though I was qualified in South Africa, but it was in Afrikaans qualified, my English didn't really exist. So even when I came over here, I couldn't work on the level that I was qualified for. Fairly, we had English in school, like you'll have French and German in school, yeah, but you never spoke it outside of the classroom. So even though I could understand it, my talking English wasn't great. Coming over here about 16 years ago with just a suitcase, not speaking English was a bit challenging. So I used to work for McDonald's hotels, which back then was the largest privately owned hotel group. So I had to start off as working in a KP, washing pots and dishes in a place in Knutsford, south of Manchester, until my English got better and I got promoted, and I moved down to Windsor and went to senior management in a very short time, and because my English got better and they go, oh, he talks the talk and walks the walk now. So being a senior management, you look at more of the numbers, your P&Ls and your forecast and budgets and stuff like that. That was very handy because I never really used to do that before. So, and then working with big teams, back then I used to work for the largest conference center in Europe. So you had large teams and you had big responsibilities for a young guy. So it definitely taught me a lot more of business than what I knew beforehand. So yes, it's okay running a team, but as soon as you then start working, well, listen, I need to work out my budget for next month and what is my forecast, and it taught me a lot of different things that I didn't knew before. It was while I was still working for the hotels. It was in Family Hall Hotel in Camberley. I was duty manager on the day, running a wedding. And it was in between the wedding breakfast and the evening reception. And we were quite busy. And what we get quite regularly, because they've got a spa there, is when people sit in the sauna on the steam room, they press the big red button thinking it creates more steam. So we get quite a lot of false alarms over a weekend. And alarm went off, and I got a call from reception saying, listen, fire alarm went off in the spa, can you go check? Because we were busy, I kind of legged it across. And as I left the hotel, one of the personal trainers came running out saying, listen, I need a first aider poolside. I was like, I'm a first aider. So as we approached the pool, there was two guys pulling a young lady out of the water. Got to her, she had no pulse, she wasn't breathing. So I started doing CPR, asking for details in between from the personal trainers, is there anything that we need to know about? One of the other staff members were on a call to Family Park, to ambulance. I think it was about just under 6 minutes I was doing CPR before we managed to get her to kind of come back on her own, but still unconscious. And by the time the medics arrived, they struggled to keep her going, but they managed to get her onto it, which is okay to travel. And they said they would have probably declared her dead for the amount of time that I've been giving CPR to her. If you've ever been in a situation like that, because it's a drowning, it's a lot of water and sick that comes out. So I was in a suit and I was standing in the shower getting changed. And I was like, I remember the address that they read out. That's just down the road. If we couldn't unlock a phone, how are the parents going to be notified? So I got changed and I ran down the road and knocked on the door. I said, listen, does Izzy Mumford live here? And they went, yeah, and it was their wedding anniversary. And they were having a quiet night, and she went up to the pool to give them some time alone. Said, well, I've just resuscitated your daughter poolside. They've taken her to Family Park, you need to go. They were such a shock, they just slammed the door in my face and off they went. And inside I was like, I don't know if I hang around, what do I do? So I went back to the hotel. I spoke to the bride and groom and I said, listen, something just happened, I just need 10 minutes. Everything is in good hands, so you guys will do the evening reception, DJ sorted. I just need a few minutes. And I went to the bar and I got a double brandy and I walked outside and I called my boss and I said, listen, this just happened, and just so you know, I am having a brandy. So she was in an induced coma for 2 weeks. She's made a full recovery. She had an epileptic fit while swimming, and there was nobody else in the pool. They only found her when she was already unconscious underwater. And I gave her a little bracelet with a little heart on, because I got her heart beating again, and now she's got 2 birthdays every year. And I think that's almost 10 years ago now. I think respect for me comes first and foremost. I treat my clients with respect and the job with respect, because for me, society is built on respect. And if I treat people like that, I think people, let's be honest, trades have got a bad reputation in the UK. Trades doesn't have the greatest reputation in the UK. And it's how people present themselves when they turn up to do work, and how they look and how they talk to clients. And for me, I think, it's yes sir, no sir, until somebody tells me not to call them sir, and then I still struggle. I think, having that respect for the people that we work with and work for is important, because the people feel like if I respect them and I respect the work that I do and the way that we carry and not being late, I'm always early, I think that is, for me, is vital. And then everything else falls in place, then having empathy of why they're doing the work, or what is their situation, why they're having to do that, I think then becomes quite natural for me, because that's just how I feel about it. Okay, there's quite a longer story to this. So I was here for 9 years at this stage, and close to getting my British passport. Some of my lads were working for my neighbour. I was on the way to the gym. Got a call from my lad saying, "Listen, you've got armed police at your house. Immigration is looking for you." I was like, okay. Spoke to them on the phone. They said, "Mr. Dupré, we would like to review your documents. Can you please come home?" Interviewed me for quite a few hours, confiscated my paperwork, and said that the lawyer that did my paperwork 9 years then, before submitted fraudulent documents. I lost my right to be in the UK, my right to work, got letters saying that they will imminently deport me. I was like, okay, this is a bit of a shock. I was cleared from any wrongdoing, but because of what was done to me, I had to reapply. So I got some good lawyers in London, reapplied. That application went in, I think it was 250 pages. I saved the girl's life. The business that I've built here, my reputation, we did a whole thing to them. And they came back and said, yeah, well, with your personality, you can go back to South Africa and start again. If your friends are good friends, as they say they are, they can go and visit you there. And the lawyer's like, but none of these points are legal points or legal grounds for dismissing an application. Where's your legal grounds? We asked what proof was there from what was falsified. They could never give us that proof. We asked for my documents so that they can be reviewed. They lost my documents. The case went on for roughly about 4 years, which I was not allowed to legally live in the UK, so I couldn't rent. My driver's license expired. I wasn't allowed to renew it. I had to go to immigration centre once a month to report. And the first thing that they would ask me was, "Do you want to go home yet?" I was like, "I am home." It took me 4 years of legal battles, and I think roughly about £54,000. We took the Home Office to court. Some of the BNI people that I've had in my life, Cameron for one of them, came as witnesses on the day. Home Office didn't even turn up to defend the case, and got thrown out by the judge. The judge said to absolutely ripped them a new one about how they affected my human rights and and it was in 2 weeks after that court case, I got my paperwork reissued to me. And that 4 years was probably the most stressful time of my life. At least every 2 weeks I will get a letter going, "You've got 7 days and they will forcibly remove you." And I was like, well, you technically can't, because the law states I've got an application pending, and that application needs to be seen in court first. So, but it wasn't nice getting those letters on a regular basis. It was terrible. And BNI actually awarded me with a positive mindset award because of that. Only a few people knew about what was going on, but I never told everybody, and I never showed how that affected me. But I think I've got health issues today because of it. The stress that I went through at that time, every time I saw blue lights, my stomach will go in a knot. It was absolutely terrible. I literally lost everything because of that and had to start again. That was terrible. It was not a nice part of my life. I couldn't fall back and be negative about it. I had to just keep on going. And now when something happens, I'm like, can you change it? No, so then don't worry about it. If you can't physically do anything to change the outcome of it, then don't worry about it. There was times when I was like, man, this is not getting anywhere. This is getting a bit too much. But then I was like, what am I going to go back to? If I've been here so long that my life is here, my friends is like family. Why would I? I've worked hard for what I had, and for my reputation that I have and I was like, I'm not going to throw that away without a fight.